on the larger question of democracy. Now, if all the candidates belong to the rich and elite classes in a largely poor country, wouldn't that create a aristocracy and a disconnect between the representatives and the represented?
Talking about these 543 candidates alone, we are missing the woods for the trees. We have to talk about funding of parties. The parties have to take responsibility for their candidates, and there have been many attempts by the Election Commission to call parties and discuss common areas of funding. Eventually, unfortunately, both the giver and the taker eventually are comfortable with black money, and I'm getting back to this point. We are parties that govern the country, not individual candidates. If the candidate is funded by the party, then the candidate does not have to be a rich person who gets funds for himself. He has to be answerable to the party, and the party has to be answerable to the people.
Okay, yeah, I'll take a question, but before that, we have Arun Shori in our midst and also Ramesh Dubey, an MP, so I would like both of them, if they don't mind, to ask questions at some point of time. Yeah, ma'am.
My name is Anjali Bhardwaj. I work with Satark Nagrik Sangathan. We've been talking about transparency, and it's really encouraging to hear both Jayaji and Mr. Kumar talk about the need for transparency, also focusing on political parties as opposed to just candidates, and the whole discourse on the right to information. Now, one of the important parts of the right to information or features of the right to information in India, the Act, is that it's also applicable to the legislature. So what would be interesting for us to know is that, is there any discussion within parties, is there any move towards proactive disclosure of this kind of funding? Because really that's what will show political will, and that's really the spirit of the Act and what we are really talking about right now. And perhaps, would even suggest that we would need to do that, to move from just lip service to actually doing something.
Indicate the sources of their income. This is not required of a candidate. What I said was that it should be made applicable to the candidate also.
I still feel that we need to sanctify the process of funding, purify, identify, and decide how parties get their funds. Let the parties decide how the candidates should spend their funds, which candidates should get what funds. But unless we go to the source of the giver and taker, where the parties are the ones who are taking the money, individual candidates don't matter.
Hi, my name is Mission Act at the moment. I have a very simple question. We've all been talking about transparency of party spending, and Mr. Kumar said it should be made obligatory. My question is, who is the institution in this country who can make it obligatory for individual candidates to disclose their accounts? Isn't it Parliament and the political parties themselves? And what then is stopping political parties from doing this? In fact, watching the Obama campaign, I asked myself as an Indian, why don't our political parties begin to compete on transparency issues?
No, I thought it would be interesting to go to politicians first, but anyway, first, yeah.
No, for your question, see, every candidate now files the information. Only the point is that how truthful it is a question. See, you can't make people. You can't you can't mandate by law transparency. You can only say you should be transparent.
I think if the politicians on the panel answer that, do they think there is political will in Parliament for a law of this nature, honestly?
I think definitely Parliament should do this, but unfortunately those people...
Now the question is, do you think it will? Should, of course, we all agree.
I doubt if it will, unless we all put a lot more pressure, particularly on the thing which I mentioned right at the beginning, accessing of those funds. What kind of funds and how do they access it? If the beneficiaries of black money sit in Parliament, they are not going to legislate on how it should be white.